Today we are learning to add and subtract decimals. Please copy down the standard benchmark indicator on a clean page in your math notebook. The student will find the sum or difference of two numbers expressed as decimals through thousands using paper and pencil. Adding and subtracting decimal numbers. When you add or subtract decimals, first line up the decimal points. Then annex or add zeros to the end of the decimal if necessary. Then add or subtract as if you were adding or subtracting whole numbers. Example 1. Add 1 and 4/10 and 1 and 63/100. Use models if you like. Line up the decimal points, annex or add zeros so that both numbers have the same number of digits to the right of the decimal point. Add beginning with the hundredths. So 0 plus 3 is 3. 4 plus 6 is 10, so the 0 goes down, we carry the 1, and then 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. You can also see it right over here in the model. We now have 3 wholes filled in and 3 hundredths. And you can see the first decimal is in the light gray and the second decimal is in the dark gray. So the sum is 3 and 3/100. Try it. Add. Use models if you like. So first we're going to add 59/100 and 6/10. So the first thing we need to do, since they're already lined up by the decimal point, is add a 0 on the end of the 6 so they both have the same number of places after the decimal. Next, we're going to shade in both decimals in two different colors. So first we're going to shade in the 6/10 in the blue I'm using. Then I'm going to switch colors and use the red to shade in the 59/100. Now we can use that to check our adding as we add the two decimals over here on the left. So we know 9 plus 0 is 9. Then 5 plus 6 is 11. So we're going to put the 1 down and then carry the other one. Then 1 plus 0 is 1. And then we're going to bring the decimal point straight down between the two ones. For problem B, again, our decimals aren't the same length, so we have 1 and 2/10 and 23/100. So we're going to add a 0 onto the end of 1 and 2/10 so that we can add vertically. We're then going to shade in our two decimals. So we're going to shade in the 1 and 2/10, or now 1 and 20/100. So we're shading the whole first block and 2 columns in the second block. Now I'm going to switch colors and shade in the 23/100. Now to check our work, we're going to add the decimals to the left here. We know 0 plus 3 is 3. 2 plus 2 is 4. And 1 plus 0 is 1. And then we're going to bring the decimal straight down between the 1 and the 4. So our answer is 1 and 43/100, which matches our shading in our model to the right. Now, moving on to C. First thing we need to do is line up our numbers by lining up the decimal point. Next, because our decimals are not the same length, we need to add a 0 on the end of the 42 hundredths. Now we can just add. So 6 plus 0 is 6. 2 plus 2 is 4. 0 plus 4 is 4. 2 plus 0 is 2. And then we bring down the decimal point straight down. So our answer is 2 446 thousandths. For D, we need to do the same thing. First thing we do is line up our decimals using the decimal point. Since 6 8/10 is a shorter number, we need to add 2 zeros so that all the columns have 2 numbers to add. So 3 plus 0 is 3. 1 plus 0 is 1. 7 plus 8 is 15, so we're going to put the 5 down and carry the 1. 1 plus 6 is 7, and then we're going to bring the decimal straight down. So our answer is 7 513 thousandths. Moving on to example 2. Now we're subtracting decimals. We're going to subtract 1 7/10, subtracting 0 and 34 hundredths. Use the models if you like. So it's the same thing with adding. First thing you do is you line up the decimals using the decimal points. Then you add 0 so that both numbers have the same number of digits to the right of the decimal point. In this case, they added a 0 onto the end of 1 7/10. Then we're going to subtract, beginning with the hundredths, just like you would with any other subtraction. So they have a 0 there, so they're going to borrow from the 7. So then they get 10 minus 4 is 6. Then you have 6 minus 3 is 3, and then 1 minus 0 is 1. You can also do this by shading in the models. And the way to do that would be to shade in the 1 7/10. So we're going to do that first. And then you're going to switch colors. You can use another color, you could use a pen, just something that you're going to be able to see over top of the first color, and you're going to cross out the 34 hundredths. And you should get the same answer they got doing the subtraction to the left, 1 36 hundredths. All right, for the try it, we're going to subtract and use models if you like. So for the first two, we will. So for E, we have 1 6 hundredths minus 8/10. First thing we need to do is add that extra 0 on the end of 8/10. Now we're going to shade in 1 whole and 6 hundredths. Next, we're going to subtract the 80 hundredths or 8/10 by crossing out 8 columns. Now we're going to do the subtraction using the numbers to the left, and we should get the same answer we got here, which is 26/100ths. So we know 6 minus 0 is 6. We know we can't subtract 8 from 0, so we're going to have to borrow from the 1s. We're going to cross that out, cross the 0 out, and write a 10 above it. Ten minus 8 is 2, and then we're going to bring the decimal down. So we got the same answer, 26/100ths. For F, first thing we're going to do is add that 0 on the end of 1 and 9/10. Then we're going to shade in 1 and 9/10. So it's almost both blocks. You're just not shading in the last column on the second block. Now we're going to cross out 1 and 49/100. So we're going to put a big X over one block. And then we're going to cross out 4 whole columns and 9 more in the next. Now we're going to check our work by doing the subtraction. We can't subtract 9 from 0. We're going to borrow from the 9. Ten minus 9 is 1. 8 minus 4 is 4. Bring the decimal down. 1 minus 1 is 0. So our answer is 41/100ths. All right, for G, we have a whole number, so we know there's an invisible decimal after it, so we're going to line that up. And then we're going to borrow across. In this case, we had to borrow across a couple of zeros. So now we can just subtract. 10 minus 9 is 1. 9 minus 0 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. Decimal point goes in. Then we're going to have to borrow again here. And then 11 minus 3 is 8, and 6 minus 1 is 5. So we get 58 and 591 thousandths. All right, next thing we're going to do is line up our two numbers by the decimal point and add zeros. Now we're going to borrow across so that we can subtract where the zeros are. Okay, 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 minus 8 is 1. 13 minus 4 is 9. Decimal point comes straight down. 1 minus 0 is 1, and the 3 comes straight down. So we get 31 and 919 thousandths. Please make sure you have all the work copied down and glue this paper in your math notebook.